And Megan Thee Stallion celebrating a win in a defamation lawsuit against a blogger. Court documents show the jury found Milagro Cooper liable for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and promotion of an altered sexual depiction. Megan testified that Cooper participated in a targeted and coordinated social media campaign to harass, intimidate, and defame her. Now Cooper owes $75,000 in damages. ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer is here for more on that. Hi, Brian. So Megan's attorney says this verdict sends a clear message that spreading, quote, dangerous misinformation carries significant consequences. What kind of a precedent will this set?
So, Diana, I agree with the defense attorney here that it does send a message, and the precedent that it does set is a dollar amount that we're seeing people who might consider themselves to be bloggers or simply commentators on some of these high-profile cases, whatever it may be. Sean Combs, we have the Luigi Mangione case that you're going to talk about later today. People are posting about it, talking about it, but opinions are one thing, but defamation is another. And when you look at the amount, especially with that altered video or picture, that took up 2/3 of the damages. It's a hefty fine or a hefty amount that you have to pay out if you're spreading this false information.
Cooper currently owes $75,000 in damages, but you say it's actually going to cost her more than that. Why?
Yeah, so in Florida, there are certain allegations or certain civil claims that don't come along with what's called attorney's fees. So defamation, it's going to be that $15,000 that the jury asked for. For the intentional infliction of emotional distress, it'll be that $8,000. But that $50,000 for that deepfake video, the judge can also attach on attorney's fees when it comes to that specific law, that altered sexual depiction that was sent out of Megan Thee Stallion. Now, imagine how much Megan Thee Stallion, who paid, according to this civil case, $240,000 for a 4-week mental health retreat. Imagine how much she pays her attorneys for. Now, Milagro Cooper, she's going to be on the hook for that. So this is a very expensive photo that she put out there. And I think, again, going back to what her attorney says, sends a deep message that you could be on the hook for potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars just out of attorney's fees and damages that a jury finds you liable for.
So he's incorrect because the judge dismisses defamation ruling for blogger and Megan Thee Stallion lawsuit. It says the judge dismissed a jury's verdict on Tuesday, holding social media commentator and blogger Milagro liable for defamation in a lawsuit filed by hip hop star Megan Thee Stallion October 24. Cooper was found liable for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and promotion of an altered sexual depiction by a Miami jury on Monday, but Chief U.S. District Judge Cecilia Naga dismissed the defamation ruling because the plaintiff did not serve the media defendant with a legal notice before filing the suit, according to court documents. As a condition precedent to defamation precedent to defamation suit, Section 770.01, Florida statutes requires a plaintiff to serve a media defendant with written notice specifying the alleged false or defamatory statements at least 5 days before filing a complaint.
It's called basically a cease and desist. Also, the problem that you come into when you have public figures is sometimes the misrepresentation of facts is editorial in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that oftentimes kills the defamation aspects of it. And it's this kind of thing now where are we supposed to protect everybody from all scrutiny directed at the stuff they give? I mean, we have instances where the exact opposite happens, but I think part of this is because the upbringing of the last 2 generations has been deficient. They simply have not been grounded in the real world, and they've been encouraged to be deep into their emotions. So when they get upset, somebody's supposed to pay. But that's not the way the world works. The reason you have defamation causes is to prevent something that's no longer common, and that was the duel. When you insulted someone, they were likely to take their glove or gauntlet and slap you across the face and say, I challenge you to a duel. Have your second meet mine, and the arrangements will be worked out. And then at dawn on such and such day out in the forest or in a field, the aggrieved party and the defending party would meet up and they would have a duel with swords, with pistols, whatever the case may be. And the defamation action was essentially to preserve public peace, dignity, and order by preventing the violent, sometimes lethal duel from occurring by the promise of shekels crossing the palm of the hand as compensation for maintaining public peace and order.
It says here the judge decreased the damages Cooper owes Pete. Miss Pete is Megan Thee Stallion. That's her last name. From $75,000 to $59,000, according to legal documents. Atonaga, that's the judge, upheld the other two counts of intentional infliction of emotional distress and promotion of an altered sexual depiction. Quote, Cooper is Milagro, the blogger that was sued, or the content creator sued. Cooper ultimately prevailed on Miss Pete's leading accusation, which is defamation, and the jury awarded a nominal amount of damages compared to millions of dollars Miss Pete, aka Megan Thee Stallion, demanded from Miss Cooper throughout the course of the litigation.
You know, this is one of those cases most probably should have been resolved with $1 in damages.
Right. And now Megan Thee Stallion attorney said in a statement after the jury's verdict on Monday that Cooper is also required to cover costs of the rapper's legal bills.
That gets ridiculous. The fees that they charge today are obscene. And the attorneys, not all of them, but for the most part, are so inexperienced in their craft with so few trials and so few clients that they're essentially amateurs.
Now,
And what they do when I look at it and I'm watching and say, that's very pathetic, just absolutely pathetic. And they got paid how much for that? That wasn't even artful.
Well, the judge is quoted saying, requests for costs and fees shall not be submitted until after any post-trial motions are decided or an appeal is concluded, whichever occurs later. So what is the judge saying? That,
in other words, let's see what you got out of it, because there's a good chance that on appeal, none of this is going to stand. What's going on here is this. Okay, what was happening? We had judicial conference several times a year, and we'd catch up on the law and we'd resolve stuff like, how much do you think it's reasonable to award the winning attorney in a divorce case or in certain types of civil cases? And the day before, our topic that we were dealing with was payment for appointed counsel, like when the public defender's office had a conflict and couldn't represent somebody, so you appointed a private attorney to represent this guy. How much were you going to reimburse the private attorney for conducting this criminal defense? Now, the case type we were talking about was capital murder, where the death penalty was demanded. So I jumped the conference. I said, it's getting ridiculous in here. This is how much money you talking about paying somebody in a successful divorce case for attorney fees, and you were talking about per hour for defending somebody when the state is demanding that their life be taken. You aren't paying them any more than they would get working at Mickey D's for minimum wage. Isn't something wrong with that?
right.
Oh, wow. We didn't think of that. Yeah, well, think of it. I mean, this is 35 years ago. Give you a perspective. If you want a divorce case, the debate was whether you should get paid $250 an hour, $250 an hour, or $350 an hour. And with a fee cap, say for $2,500 on a successful divorce case. Now you're talking about 250,000 or things like that. But they were talking about paying the defense lawyers who have to spend weeks preparing for this first degree murder trial, death penalty demanded. They were getting paid $5.30 an hour. So what is this? You take these attorneys and you force them to represent somebody, and you're paying them what they would make at Mickey D's. And on the other hand, somebody just handling the divorce, and you get them into a situation where you're debating 250 or 350 an hour, and that's 30 years ago, which I thought was obscene then.
So this right here is a copy of the case, right? United States District Court, Southern District of Florida. And it says the nature of the action. Honestly, it sounds like Megan Thee Stallion and celebrities, they're picking, and I think they're starting to act like you're picking on me, you're talking about me in a negative way, and I don't like it. So it says, for years, defendant Cooper acted and continues to act on behalf of Daystar Peterson, also known as Tory Lanez, as an online rumor mill, trooning out falsehood about Miss Pete to her tens of thousands of social media followers. Since Mr. Peterson's 2020 indictment for felony assault with a deadly weapon after shooting Miss Pete, to his later conviction in December of 2022, up through today, defendant Cooper performed Mr. Peterson's public bidding to degenerate, belittle, insult, and spread false statements about Miss Pete on her online social media platforms for no other reason than to bully, harass, and punish Miss Pete for Mr. Peterson's conviction and to tarnish her reputation, causing emotional distress. The lengths to which defendant Cooper goes to harass Miss Pete knows no bounds. For example, she has gone so far as to share a deep fake pornographic video of Miss Pete. In June 2024, defendant Cooper encouraged her 27,000 ex followers to view an ex post by Bembella that shared a doctored artificial created video of Miss Pete purportedly engaged in sexual acts without Miss Pete's knowledge or consent. After defendant's conduct led to a firestorm of negative reaction from others, defendant doubled down in a YouTube video on June 9th, 2024, claiming Miss Pete was a professional victim and denying any wrongdoing, but defendant is wrong. Her conduct was an unlawful promotion of an altered sexual depiction and caused Miss Pete severe emotional distress and reputational harm.
Well, yeah. If you want to see where this goes ultimately, just think about what kind of action President Donald Trump could have against some of the people who were pundits for various news services in this country.
Exactly.
Or look at
But did he sue some of them? He sued some of them.
Yeah, I know, but are you going to let him win? You know, this is the kind of situation. See, he's just working on the precedents that have been set. Look at France suing Candace Owens in Delaware, forum shopping. She doesn't live in Delaware. She lives in Tennessee. She should have filed here. But Ms. Owens, being what she is, courageous and bold, is probably welcoming the opportunity because under American systems, that means you get to present hearsay, rumors, and all kinds of other stuff when it talks about the person's character, and then you get to submit responses to interrogatories, that's questions that can be compelled about did you or did you not? Or is she not? Since they were talking about the wife and the alleged trans nature of the wife.
You're talking about Candace Owens. So yeah, so again, okay, she has to pay her, but the judge reduced it and threw out the defamation aspect of it.
And by
So
the way, actually, that might come under somebody's homeowner's insurance.
well, she already raised $100,000. So there you go.
And it would be absolutely ridiculous for the lawyer to get more out of it than the client. So that's happening a lot these days, which is probably why the judge said, let's see what happens when this thing is all over before attorney fees will be approved. Because why give the lawyer more than the client got?